Are you still here? Well, hi there. Welcome back. Most students know when they see a bad lecture. They sat through enough of them, and they are painfully and piercingly accurate in their destruction of a boring lecture. So you'd think, therefore, when their turn comes to give a presentation, you would be entranced by a clear, crisp and interesting presentation. Well, having sat through many of those, I have to say that sadly, this is very far from the truth. And not just students. I've sat through many pretty ghastly presentations from colleagues as well. So here are 8 rules that may help remedy the situation. Rule 1. Hit the start running. The audience has actually come to hear you say something interesting. So don't start by mumbling apologies about your lack of presentation, or by reading out your literature list, honestly, or by telling us your interesting methodology. Political scientists, please don't. So start with a question, a big question. Tell us a why and a wherefore, and give us a hint of bigger things to come. Rule 2. Don't read your text. There are various very good reasons why you shouldn't. You don't engage with your audience. Your timing is likely to go wrong. Your voice won't be forceful enough. Ladies, especially you, I'm afraid. And you will lose your intonation. And all of this is worse if you are not a native speaker. Of course, the answer for not reading your text is not writing it out in the first place. Which brings us to rule 3. Do use PowerPoint or something similar, but do it properly. Don't overload it with text. Make sure the graphics are legible. Use bullets one at a time. And use 1 or 2 words as prompts for yourself, and don't write out full sentences. A font size of 24 should suffice for the main points, which will give you 8 or 9 points maximum to a page. And I usually recommend 1 PowerPoint slide for 2 minutes. And look, if you're still worried, keep a neat, easily consultable text nearby, not a pile of scrappy notes. And people will forgive you if occasionally you need to consult them. They'll say, poor thing. Rule 4. The 8-minute rule. The 8-minute rule applies to a 45-minute lecture, but you can easily envisage variants for shorter presentations. We can best illustrate this on a graph, which plots the attention level on the vertical axis and the time elapsed of the lecture on the horizontal axis. And what the rule states is that after 8 to 10 minutes, the attention level will drop dramatically and will settle there until awareness reasserts itself that there's actually a presentation going on. And it states that this pattern will repeat itself throughout the rest of the presentation. But as you can see, the attention spans get smaller, the inattention spans get longer, and the attention peak falls very fast. So what do? Well, in this case, knowledge is power. You know it's going to happen, so anticipate the lapses and have a pick-up strategy. For example, change the emphasis. This might be the time for an anecdote, a question to the class, or a joke or some little story. Change the medium. Pop up a picture, show a graph, or use a visualization. Another trick is to ask a rhetorical question. This is always very good, since the class usually thinks that it should at least think about an answer. But best of all is change tack. Sum up where you are, ask a couple of rhetorical questions, and move on to what you're doing next. And this then brings us to rule 5. Pay attention to the structure. You know that people are going to switch off during your presentation at least once or twice in 20 minutes and 4 or 5 times in 45 minutes. So plan your lecture in bites of time and stick to it. Have 3 themes for 20 minutes, a couple of minutes at each end, and you've got 5 minutes per theme. 2 slides, 3 slides. And don't forget to build in time to sum up and relaunch. So you choose a theme for each segment and you put that in the header of your PowerPoint, and you use the content to reinforce that theme, the argument, the evidence, and the counter-argument. So now we know what we're going to say. It's time for Rule 6. Pay attention to your audience. They want to listen to you. They want to feel that you care about them. So talk to them. Talk to them all. And the secret is eye contact. So when you arrive at the scene, choose 3 people, one near the front, one in the middle but on the other side, and a third elsewhere but not too far back. These people, even strangers, should at least have nodded or smiled or recognized your presence in some way before you begin. Now, when you're talking, direct your attention at the first of them and keep it there until they nod or show some appreciation in some way, and then turn to the next and do the same. Now, the trick is that everyone around these targets will think that you've been talking to them. So with 3 targets, you can actually cover a lecture hall of a couple of hundred people, and you can certainly cover a small table with 20 or 30. So, a couple of short rules now. Rule 7, too much stuff. Well, we said earlier that you should fix the time for each block and stick to it. If you've got too much stuff, don't accelerate. Certainly do not grab your text and start reading very fast. Nobody is listening. So leave the stuff out. You can say you're leaving it out. Ah, they'll go. Or you could say you're leaving it out but will answer questions on it later. And this is positively devious, since you can pick up the issue again in question time. You can even volunteer it in those ghastly moments when it looks as though nobody's going to ask a question. And this brings us to Rule 8. Finish on time. This is simple. Whatever we've said about the 8-minute rule, at the moment you are scheduled to end, whether it is 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or 45 minutes, the attention level drops to 0. Now you can fight the chairperson and continuing blathering along, but nobody is listening. The bodies might be there, but the minds have long ago moved to other things. Well, I hope you've enjoyed these podcasts, and they may have proved helpful in preparing your assignments. I look forward to reading them.